Kamala Harris. Little louder so the Vice President can hear you back there. The Vice President and I were actually Senate classmates together. We were both elected in the class that came in 2017. It was a great honor to work with her on climate change issues from the very day she joined the United States Senate. And I'm so glad that she is now helping lead the way at the national level. I was so proud to join her when President Biden signed this program into law as part of the Inflation Reduction Act last September. That was a big day for the country. So thank you all. The next person I'm going to bring up here is going to be the person who's in charge of implementing this program. As all of you know, passing an important national law like this is a vital first step, but implementation is the key. We need to make sure that this is implemented and that we make sure we achieve those goals of greenhouse gas reductions, making sure we achieve our environmental justice goals, and we have self-sustaining funds. And I want to thank the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Michael Regan. And I want to thank him on behalf of myself and Markey and my other colleagues, because he has been in close touch to make sure that as we unfold this and implement this, we achieve the vision that we set out for it all those years ago. So ladies and gentlemen, if you could please join me in giving a very warm welcome to the man who is going to make sure that this vision that we all share is turned into reality on the ground. EPA Administrator Michael Regan.
You know, it's an honor to be here with all these champions. Congressman Pallone, Senator Markey, Senator Carper, Senator Van Hollen, and of course, Vice President Kamala Harris. Madam Vice President, I know you're listening behind stage, so let me just say, we are grateful for your leadership. You know, she's fighting to remove lead pipes all over this country. She is leading the charge on environmental justice. She is a fierce champion for women's rights, and our country is better off because of her leadership. Folks, it's really hot, so I hope everyone is staying safe. Just last week, this world experienced the hottest day recorded in history. And right now, right here in Baltimore, it's more than 90 degrees. And while we are experiencing this intense heat, in states like New York and Vermont, millions of people are grappling with the severe impacts of storms and catastrophic flooding. Folks, this is what climate change looks and feels like. I'm feeling it. You're feeling it. Our children are feeling it. Make no mistake, we are experiencing right now the realities of climate change. But make no mistake, when President Biden took office, he vowed to combat the climate crisis and protect every single person in this country, regardless of the color of their skin, the money in their pockets, or the community that they live in. And guess what? He's delivering. He and the Vice President fought tooth and nail to secure the most ambitious climate legislation in our nation's history. Yes. A once-in-a-generation investment in America. And as a result, EPA is putting to work over $41 billion, billion with a B, in all the right places. And one of the most innovative and exciting parts of that $41 billion is the historic Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. This $27 billion program is designed to pull hundreds of billions of dollars of private capital off the sidelines to address climate change head-on, reinforce our country's economic competitiveness, and directly invest in communities that have been marginalized for far too long. Now, last month in Vermont, we announced a $7 billion Solar for All program that will unlock opportunities for overburdened communities to deploy and benefit from clean, affordable residential solar. And today I am proud to announce that with the remaining $20 billion, we are spurring the creation of a first-of-its-kind national financing network to ensure that every community in this country has access to low-cost, clean energy and technology solutions that will put money back into people's pockets. A $14 billion National Clean Investment Fund to provide grants to national nonprofits for financing that will partner also with private sector partners to help fund tens of thousands of clean energy technology projects all around the country, with 40% of the capital flowing directly to low-income and disadvantaged communities under President Biden's Environmental Justice or Justice 40 initiative. And working alongside of that $14 billion, we have another $6 billion for Clean Communities investments to deliver funding to hundreds of lenders to low-income and disadvantaged communities, making sure that no matter where you live, you have access to pollution-reducing and cost-saving technologies. So what does that mean? It means when Crystal Hansley of We Solar, a minority-owned, woman-owned, small business right here in Baltimore, when she wants to put solar on the rooftops of churches and schools in the community that she is from, she will have access to low-cost loans that are essential for making those projects a reality. This is real money for real people. And every dollar we invest in public funding, we know will generate much more in private investment. When President Biden took office, he promised that he would create an economy that works for everyone. And that's exactly what this program is doing. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is Bidenomics in action. It's tackling the climate crisis head on. It's creating millions of good-paying jobs. It's supercharging private investment in clean technologies, and it's delivering health and financial benefits to communities nationwide. Folks, the clean energy future is here. And we're making sure that every community across this country has a fair chance. And as I stand here today, I could not be more optimistic about the future of America because of the leadership of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
How are we doing, Charm City? So I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce to you all today the wonderful, the magnificent, the extraordinary Vice President Kamala Harris. But before I do, I want to share a little biographical information with you, but also give a few shout-outs. And the first shout-out is to Administrator Mike Regan, who you just heard from, who is doing some extraordinary work lifting up environmental justice and fighting systemic racism as it impacts environmental policy across these United States. We have never had an administrator that has leaned in as hard as he is leaning in on these issues, and it is a joy and an honor to watch him and the people at the United States Environmental Protection Agency do their work every day. It is a new day. I Van Hollen. I don't know if he mentioned this in his remarks, but you may remember that there's been a struggle going on about the Red Line and the funding for the Red Line in Baltimore City to connect East and West Baltimore, to bring folk to where the businesses are, to where the money is, to where the jobs are. And in that infrastructure bill, Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin got a specific write-in in that bill to make sure that the Red Line is going to come back and the feasibility is going to come back. And Baltimore is going to get what it needs. Thank you. So again, I want to share a little bit about myself. For the past 38 years, I've been working with every fiber of my being to build and grow the movement for environmental justice in the United States and across the world. It's been my life's work, but the seeds of that work were planted in my hometown of Harlem, New York, and the Bronx, the South Bronx, where I went to middle school. Shout out for Harlem, you know it, all day and all night. But also, while frequently visiting my family here in Baltimore City. My mother was born in Baltimore. She lived in Ellicott City for a few years, but she spent her formative years in Baltimore and then moved to Harlem, thank God, so I could be born. But everything that I've ever done is about the inequities that I saw growing up in the 1960s and 70s, and the profound difference and differences between what existed in our communities and what existed in neighboring communities. The resources that we didn't have and the resources that other people did have. And I decided that I was going to become an urban planner because I wanted to be a part of the efforts to restore the beauty, vibrancy, vitality, and history of communities like ours. Communities that were full of good people, with good ideas, but not a lot of political or economic support to reinvest in and reimagine what our futures could look like. But we are in a different moment right now. In 2022, the Biden-Harris administration followed the signing into law of the historic Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act with the passage and signage of the Inflation Reduction Act. I believe that these two historic bills and the targeted Justice 40 initiative, if you don't know what Justice 40 is, take out your phone and Google it now, because it's going to change the game. It's going to change the game. It's this kind of economic and political leadership that we as a nation have waited decades to see enacted. There has not been this level of federal funding for programs and projects and investment and infrastructure and Wi-Fi and clean energy and jobs and schools and healthcare. We have not seen this in our lifetimes. We may not see it again. So we have to lean in and meet this moment. And of course, just as I'm on a roll, I lose my own remarks, right? They're here, trust and believe, they're here. Hold on one second, because I want to say some really wonderful things about the Vice President that I feel so deeply in my soul. Some of you are black women, as I am in this audience. Some of you are not. But we waited a lifetime to see somebody in this office who looked like us. To see somebody in this office. American and a child of people from the Caribbean and from South Asia. We waited a lifetime. Some of us could never imagine that this moment would arrive. But here we are, and she's swinging, isn't she? Swinging for the fences. So this year, Vice President Harris has traveled the country, meeting with community leaders, students, and environmental advocates to highlight the administration's climate efforts and hear directly from Americans what these investments mean to them. As part of her work to build an economy that works for all, the Vice President has placed a particular focus on community banks, such as community development finance institutions, community finance institutions that give money directly at the community level, right? New Moment, having launched several initiatives focused on maximizing resources for those who are integral to community leaders. We are here today to hear what the Inflation Reduction Act is doing and will continue to do to support cities like Baltimore, who have too long waited to be shown some love from the federal government. Are you hearing me? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I introduce to you the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
In these last 2 years of the work we have done, that really is about answering the calls, but I mean that in all seriousness, and answering the demands, answering for Vernice over 30 years, and so many other leaders who are here and around our country who have been talking about and shouting about and organizing about and leading about the need for us to take seriously the health and the safety and the well-being of all communities. It is leaders like Vernice who talk about places like Baltimore, who understand the capacity of the community, as well as the needs of the community, as well as the dreams and the desires of the community. So I stand here before you as Vice President of the United States, proud to make the announcements we are making today, which are historic, and I am very clear. I stand here on the shoulders of people like Vernice. And leadership in the fight for environmental justice. So it is good to be back in Baltimore. You know, I'm from Oakland. Baltimore is like home to me. And it is, of course, wonderful to be here with my friend, with my colleague, the EPA Administrator, Michael Regan, who I have to tell you, because he and I have been working very closely, like I said, traveling around the country. He is extraordinary. Bernice talked about it, and you can see when he talks. He is truly committed, and he is bold, and he is relentless, and he is tireless, and he is ambitious about the rights and the responsibilities that we have to respond to the needs of the American people. Michael, it's such a joy to work with you. Thank you for your work. And it is also wonderful to be here with when I was in the Senate, my Senate classmate, Chris Van Hollen. Chris is always saying, come back to Baltimore, I'm here. Senator Tom Carper, a great, great leader, a great friend to the president, and one of the people who is responsible for being a leader in the state Senate, in our national Senate, in the Capitol on this issue, as well as Senator Ed Markey, all the way from Massachusetts here because of the work that he has been doing tirelessly for years and years. He and I talked about a similar announcement that we made together in Boston. Congressman Frank Pallone, where are you? Thank you for your work. There he is. Again, a long way from home, but here because this is about national impact, this work we're doing. And of course, Congressman David Trone, thank you for your leadership and your work. And I also want to mention the governor, Wes Moore. He's out of state at the moment, but he wanted to be here, and he's doing incredible work, and I want to applaud his leadership. To thank this audience and all of the folks who are here, if not in person, but because of their work, they are here and present with us. In particular, the students, the activists, the union workers, the elected officials, everyone is here. Mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers and aunties and uncles and all of the leaders who have participated in a day like today. I want to thank you for your leadership and your partnership in taking on one of the most urgent matters of our time, this climate crisis. So every day, all across our nation, we feel and see the impact of the climate crisis. I mean, if you watch the morning news, it will be the lead story. It's been every day for the last couple of weeks. It is the lead story. I think we finally, at least in our progress, come to the point that most people can no longer deny it because it is so obvious. And we have seen around our country where communities have been choked by drought, have been washed out by floods and decimated by hurricanes. Here in Baltimore, you have seen your skies darkened by wildfire smoke. And you have seen the waters of the Chesapeake Bay rise, threatening homes and businesses that have stood for generations. It is clear that the clock is not only ticking, it is banging, and we must act. As Vice President, as I said, I've traveled across our nation to speak with thousands of Americans about this crisis. I have met with students and entrepreneurs, small business owners, community leaders, nonprofit leaders, labor leaders, folks with new approaches to reduce our emissions and accelerate our clean energy transition. But folks who often do not have access to the funds they need to make their ideas a reality. And that is a problem. For years, one of the missing pieces in our strategy to fight the climate crisis is that we have not invested at scale in community climate action. For years, the people of the community, folks who know what their neighborhood needs and how to provide it, have not been given adequate resources to implement climate solutions that match the magnitude of the crisis we face. And that's why we're here today. And that's why we're here today. Today, I am proud to announce the largest investment in financing for community-based climate projects in our nation's history. And one of the reasons that it is so significant is because we also, frankly, we got to make up for some lost time. So by dramatically accelerating our work, we know we can lower emissions. And we will do that by providing $20 billion to a national network of nonprofits, community lenders, and other financial institutions to fund tens of thousands of climate and clean energy projects across America. Okay, so imagine, for example, the construction companies that build affordable housing here in Baltimore. That because of this investment, will now have the capital they need to install energy-efficient appliances in new units, to lower energy use, and to help tenants save on their electric bills. Imagine, for example, the small business owner who will now be able to receive zero interest loans to electrify their fleet of delivery vehicles so we can reduce pollution and save on gas. Imagine, for example, Imagine, for example, the house of worship that will now be able to have access to loan guarantees so they can install solar panels on the roof of their building to generate affordable, clean electricity for the entire neighborhood. Imagine. You know, when President Biden and I took office, we set an ambitious goal, yes. People said, that can't be done. We said, well, you know what? We believe in dreaming with ambition and then seeing it through. And so we set an ambitious goal to cut our greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030 and to reach net zero emissions by 2050. The investment we are announcing today will help us to achieve these goals, and it will do so much more. Because think also about the impact on not only the local economy, not only on an investment in the entrepreneurs and innovators from and in the community, think about the impact on something like public health. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. Think of the impact on family budgets. When we help folks upgrade their heating and cooling systems, we lower the cost of electricity, which means lower energy bills for working parents, so they have more money for groceries and home repairs and school supplies. And think of all the jobs that these investments will create, including many good-paying union jobs. Jobs, for example, for the workers of IBEW who will install energy-efficient lighting. Jobs for the sheet metal workers who will replace gas furnaces with electric heat pumps. Jobs for the laborers who will build net zero housing. Right. So understand, when the President and I invest in climate, we intend to invest in jobs, invest in families, and invest in America. And this investment is also about a partnership with the private sector. You know, my whole career, I have believed in the power of public-private partnerships. I've seen how much more we can accomplish when we combine the experience and expertise of the private sector with the reach and the scale that only government can provide. And as the business leaders here today can confirm, this investment is an incentive, this public investment is an incentive by design for billions more dollars from the private sector. And in all this work, we have put a special focus on communities that have been historically left out and left behind. The climate crisis impacts everybody, but it does not impact all communities equally. Poor communities, rural communities, Native communities, and communities of color are often the hardest hit and the least able to recover. So let's be clear about that. The least in terms of where investments have been made in mitigation and adaptation, the hardest hit, and the least able to recover. So to address this inequity, nearly $12 billion of this funding we're announcing today will be invested in overlooked communities. It's time. So including in this vision of how we think of the best way and the fastest and most effective way to get the resources to the community, we are working specifically and intentionally with community banks. Why? Well, because everyone here probably knows community banks, by their nature, are run by people who live and work in the community. People who know firsthand the incredible potential in the place they themselves call home. They not only know the needs of the community, they know the capacity of the community, they know the dreams of the community, they know the ambitions of the community. And that's the kind of vehicle we need to actually think about how we will get these billions of dollars to the folks who know what to do with it. As the United States Senator, I helped secure $12 billion for community banks, and as Vice President, I have made community banks central to our economic agenda. And because of the unique role that community banks can play in addressing the climate crisis, we made sure that they are eligible for the funds that we are announcing today in a significant way, so that more small businesses around our country have opportunity to join the clean energy economy. And so I'll close with this. Last month, I met with a group of young climate activists in Colorado. And it was a group of high schoolers who organized thousands of students. And they made Denver Public Schools one of the first school districts in our nation to adopt a climate action plan. These young leaders were phenomenal. And they were bold, and they were not listening to no. And they, look, I like to say I eat no for breakfast, so I get it, right? And these young leaders, of course, like all the young leaders who are here, the youngish leaders who are here, we know we don't have time to waste. They knew that. And so they weren't sitting around waiting for somebody else to get it done. They led, understanding the profound challenges that we face. And yet I will tell you about them. They had incredible hope and optimism and joy about what is possible and the work that is being done. And I do believe it's because they, like we, know that we have time to make a difference, but we got to get on with it. And so let us share their hope and recognize that when we work together, when we invest in our communities, when we take action, we will meet this moment and build a better, cleaner, healthier future for generations to come. May God bless you, and may God bless you.
An amazing speech and introduction to the Vice President.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm just going to ask you to introduce the Vice President, the significance of that. Can you talk about that?
Oh my God, the chance of a lifetime. Well, first of all,
great job up there.
thank you. Thank you. First of all, in my lifetime, I didn't imagine that I would have a black vice president that I could support, right? And that she has.
I just wanted to tell you that your words brought tears in my eyes. Really, you are so dynamic and powerful on that stage. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Can I take a selfie with you?
Sure.
Can we take it with elected officials? But I am like the person who really Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. So, as I was saying, just never thought we would have this moment to have a black woman vice president who is a Caribbean immigrant like me, right? Or I'm not an immigrant. My dad was an immigrant. Her dad was an immigrant. All of these things, I just never, ever could have wrapped my mind around it. So it was the opportunity of a lifetime to introduce her. I will never forget this as long as I live. Absolutely never forget it.
As a New Yorker, I'm also a New Yorker.
All right
also.
now.
So this is really, really significant. And to have support for what you have been laboring
All
for
these
over
decades.
30
Decades.
Yeah, for decades. And the significance of that investment in
It
black,
means everything.
in black and brown communities.
It means everything, and they're targeting our communities for investment. For decades, we've been overlooked and passed over and underinvested in and kept off the list of priority. And now we're at the center. Come on now.
Okay.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
right?